Hi buddies! How are y'all? I miss you guys a lot, and I'm really excited for when we can be back in person together and actually hang out instead of just doing this virtual stuff. I'm pretty excited about this Romans 13 passage that we're going to talk about. It's like really straightforward, but I don't know, I think it hits pretty hard, and so I think it's a really cool passage of Romans. So the first section just talks about how it's so important to respect authority, and to submit to the authorities that God has ordained. I think sometimes it can be really hard when you think that there are dumb laws or you disagree with certain things that like the government has set in place, like speed limits or drinking ages or things like that. But it is important to realize that like God did put those in place. It says like in verse 4 that the authorities are God's servants sent for our good. And so even though it might not be things that we really want to listen to and want to obey, it is really important to respect that anyway. I think sometimes also like with bosses or employers, we struggle with like unfairness to some degree. And that can be a really difficult concept because like this passage talks about how they were set in place and like verse 3 says, for the authorities do not strike fear in people who are doing right, but in those who are doing wrong. And so it can be really hard sometimes when we feel like we're being treated unfairly by authorities, like by bosses or something like that. Like, did I really do anything wrong? Like, that wasn't that big of a deal. But I just think that it's important to be careful not to rebel against those authorities and to continue to hold your Christian attitude even when they're not acting in a way that's kind towards you. There's always more that we can do to improve ourselves and improve like our work ethic and improve the way that we work. And so I think that what we can learn from this is not necessarily that our employers are always going to be right or are like always going to be fair and good, but that we always need to respect them and be careful we don't talk bad behind their backs or like think like mean thoughts about them or just like I don't know. I know I personally tend to not speak up in person, but I like always have these pretend arguments where I like confront them and like whatever else, and then I feel better afterwards because like I just pretended to confront them, and like I think that that isn't okay. That's definitely like a rebelling, even though it's like not in their face. It's still rebelling against them in your spirit. And so I think what we can learn from this is just to be more peaceful in our spirits towards authorities. So yeah, so I think that is a really cool section. It's like not a super fun one to look at, but it is really good. The next section is also really cool. It's just very blunt and straightforward. It says, if you love your neighbor, you fulfill the requirements of God's law. And then later on it says, love does no wrong to others, so love fulfills the requirements of God's law. That kind of goes back to you can sum up the like 10 commandments in love your neighbor as yourself, or love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and your neighbor as yourself. So like I just think it's a very simple concept, but it's such a very hard thing to do to like really truly love other people around you. So yeah, I think that it's really, really, really helpful to like look at that. And then the last section, I'm almost done, sorry. It talks about the urgency of our situation. Like I think a lot of times we're just like, it's really easy to get complacent and be like, oh yeah, like we have all this time, like we're literally 20, so like we have what, another 40, 50, 60, 70 years, hopefully, we have a lot of time left. But like here it's saying like time is running out, like we need to wake up and pay attention and really be careful about the image that we're displaying to others and the way that we present ourselves, and be sure that we're living in the light and portraying God. And last thing, one thing that struck me recently is people look at Christians and how they respect authority and how they respond to authority as a reflection on their beliefs and a reflection on Jesus. And so I think that just goes back to it's really important to respect authorities and not talk bad behind their backs or something like that, just because non-Christians look at Christians and judge them by their actions. So, yeah. So that's all that I have to say. But I love you guys and I miss you guys. I really hope you all are doing really well. So I'm excited to see you soon. Bye.